All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, kids from 1 to 92. What is happening? It is Charlie and Matt back. It's been a few weeks since we've gotten together like this, and tonight we are getting together with Amanda Suffecool and Rick Ector, who are both candidates for the NRA Board of Directors. And more importantly than that, they are good friends of ours, despite what Rick will say about me.
I brought my moonshine because it's going to be a tough interview.
If I didn't actually talk to you, joke with you, and randomly insult you, that's a clue I don't like you.
Oh, there we go. I don't hear him do this with anyone else. That's what I got to tell you.
That means he loves you.
Ooh.
Loves you. Brotherly love. Brotherly love. Wait, isn't that a Michigan thing? Brotherly love, or is that?
That's Philadelphia.
Oh,
that's Philadelphia.
That's Philadelphia, man. The city of brotherly love. That's Philadelphia, man.
Wrong co-host. Sorry.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got some people that are coming in. We besides having Rick and Amanda on, I think we are doing our monthly giveaway tonight as well, aren't we?
We are.
Hopefully Matt does all that sort of cool stuff. So hopefully he's very well prepared for that.
I am. We have both Next Level Training giving away a very expensive green laser cert, and Mantis giving away a $250 X10. So we have two different giveaways that are rounding out the end of February. So thank you to our sponsors, Mantis and Next Level Training.
Yeah. So if you haven't
yet, I have one question. How many days into February?
All of them.
Huh?
How many days in February? All of them.
How many days until the end of February?
It's today. Today's the end of February, right? There's a leap year. Somebody today said it was a leap year. I'm like, it's not a leap year.
Not a leap year. It's not a leap year.
She's like, yeah, it's a leap year. I'm like, no, today's the last day. She's like, no, it's a leap year. I'm like, no, it's not a leap year.
Did you tell her to skip it?
Well, it was at the bank.
Today is the last day of February. Yeah.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Did you ask her if she bought her calendar at Harbor Freight?
Oh.
Right. I think the old joke is how many months have 28 days? I think that's what the old dad joke is, right?
Oh yeah.
All of them.
And the joke of yes, the
all
answer
of
is
them.
All of them. Absolutely. All right, so we are here. We've got Rick. We've got some people that are chiming in. We got Misty, Mrs. Wayne. We got Ron Wayne. I assume they're related. We're waiting for their brother Bruce to show up. Charlie Chambers is here. Charlie is a great brand.
Oh man,
Charlie is awesome. And Mo Palmer is here as well.
Ooh.
Mo in the house.
Mo the hizzy. Oh, and Matt is somebody's hero.
Gary, what's up, Gary? Love Gary. Gary's awesome. Gary's one of the top shots on the History Channel. Good buddy of mine.
Oh, very cool. Hey,
Charlie Chambers.
Charlie Chambers is back from North Carolina. Charlie Chambers, man, he gets around. Hey, he knows everybody.
Lots of those Charlies get around.
This is okay. How about those Red Sox?
Insert random Charlie joke here.
Right, exactly. We're following the show notes.
Our rooster's name's Charlie.
Nice, Charlie the chicken. Anyway, so if you're here and you haven't done so yet, you do need to go to meetthepressers.com/giveaway and enter yourself for the Mantis X or for the Next Level Training Cert Pistol.
And so I'm about ready to hit the banner up right about now.
Look at that. There we are. Oh, here we are. Look at this. The Waynes have been married for 24 years.
God bless you guys.
That's great. I assume that's to each other. All right, and Charlie Sierra from North Carolina, go Blue Devils. All right, so the reason, Amanda and Rick, the reason we wanted to have you guys on is not just because you're friends, not just because we like you, but you two are running for the NRA Board of Directors, and
Mhm.
this is kind of a cool thing, and it's a process that takes some time, it takes some energy, and it takes people to go around the country and to work it, essentially, to go out and social media it and be in places. And Amanda, I think we're at the end of February, and you're finally getting home from SHOT Show.
Pretty much. I left home the 28th of December, and I got to spend, I think it was 9 days at my house
Wow.
up to last Thursday, right?
Wow.
I mean, since the end of December. So it's been a little hectic. So now I'm doing laundry, lots of laundry. But other than that, the world is good.
That is cool. And Rick, you often appear at places too, right? You've been to SHOT Show. You obviously you were at the NRA meetings last year. I assume you're going to be going this year as well. When you're not
I've never gone. Never.
You've never been to the NRA annual meetings?
Gotta
But
go.
you know what? I'm going to make. I go to the annual meetings for sure, and then I go to the other NRA meetings because I'm on the outreach committee. And
He's not been to SHOT.
let's see
Oh,
what other
gotcha,
shows.
gotcha.
Yeah, right.
I just haven't. I've been to just about everything except SHOT. Yeah.
All right. Well, you gotta get in, man. You gotta go.
Yeah. I need another cameraman for next year if you want to.
I know, man. There's the plan that you make at the beginning of the year of what you're going to do in the ensuing year, and life gets in the way, and then there's extra things that come up and things. So and then you turn around. I'm like, I didn't make extra money to do some of this extra stuff, so I'm going to have to make some hard choices. But you know what? One of these days, I will.
SHOT Show is not negotiable, Rick. Once you go once, you will not. You will give up sleeping indoors before you give up SHOT Show.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done things like go to the state of Florida in like the apex of winter and like sleep outdoors. With like the Superman thermal suit on in a tent, freezing in those sub-Floridian temperatures, man, and went camping there. So, you know what? I'm game for anything.
I went to that a few years ago. It was I think it was in 2019 when I went for the first time, and I slept in a tent. And the first night, I put on every article of clothing that I had. And then the second night, I swear, I put on everything that I owned, and I still froze my butt off. And on the second night, I ended up putting a heating lamp, one of those space heaters. That's what I'm looking for. I put a space heater in the room, and in the tent, which of course is not what you're supposed to do. So
not usually.
Yeah, usually not. Amanda's
I was worried she disappeared. My first year, I was so naive. I'm thinking Las Vegas, it's out by California. I'm going to be great, and I didn't wear enough clothes for a media day at the range. I was freezing.
Yeah.
Did you see the video that Rob and I filmed out on the range this year?
I don't think so.
You don't even have to watch. You don't even have to listen to it. You just have to watch the fact that his beard whipped me sideways. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? I'm thinking of the one I seen where Trampus's beard was smacking one of his employees in the face. But still, beards were flying out there. The winds were rough.
It was.
The beards were absolutely flying. All right, so Charlie Chambers here says that Rick needs to go to SHOT. And Charlie, of course, voted for both for Rick and for Amanda for the NRA, which is cool. Nice. And then Guns and Barbecue here actually asks us, what's the giveaway word? Guns and Barbecue asks, what's the giveaway word? And the giveaway is anything will work. is kind of what the giveaway is.
Or NRA, like it says on the screen.
Oh, there it says for NRA. There we are. I know what I put something up about this a couple weeks ago. Somebody's like, "What's the password?" Or what's the phrase that pays? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter.
Charlie's easy
in there, right?
It's easier for me to sort by a code. So if I have something in there that I know that we're telling people to use, or if somebody doesn't put anything like just an X or something, then it's usually spam. So
gotcha.
NRA, if you will, please. That would be nice. And then we can track which show got the sign.
See, he's so smart this way. All right, so let's get into it here. So what makes someone decide that they want to run for the NRA Board of Directors?
Rick made me. No.
Who you want to take
Go ahead,
that first?
Go ahead. You run with it, and
I'll take it first.
Okay.
You know, just following personal journey and foray into this whole thing about firearm rights and firearms ownership. You know, I was robbed at gunpoint in my own driveway, and I just followed this path of learning about guns.
We lost him.
Man.
Yep.
It was so good.
Okay.
It was. All right, Amanda.
Politics.
Take it over.
Here,
go
across
Rick's back.
and visit.
Hey,
I'm
Rick,
back. How long was I gone?
a long time. We missed you at robbed at gunpoint in my drive, and that was about it. Because we're all like,
okay, yeah, that's where we'll pick up, right? Robbed in my driveway, man. The eye-opening experience for me, and I really wanted to immerse myself in all things gun. Bought me a pistol, got a concealed pistol license. Started learning everything I could about guns, and I'm a firearms instructor, chief range safety officer. Then became a training counselor, and then I got into gun rights activism. There were places around that the police did open carry guns, and I was in the open carry movement here, and it's happening in other places across the country. And I discovered Ken Blanchard's website, Black Man with the Gun. I went to a GRPC and met Ken, and then my eyes opened, and I was like, oh man, like a whole conference full of people who believe in gun rights, willing to do things above and beyond the call of duty, you know, in that mission to educate others and to get other people to embrace their rights. Even so much they're anti, maybe they'll have an epiphany like I did and one day change their mind. But, you know, I do this event here locally in Detroit where I offer a lot of women on how to operate a firearm and shoot and discharge it roughly 20 times. Last, we've been getting better than 1,000. Of course, we a high water mark a few years ago, 2020, when we had almost 2,000 people in just one single weekend, one gun. And of course, we've expanded to a 2-day deal with 2 gun ranges per day. And I was invited to be part of the NRA's outreach committee. This is my 4th year being on the outreach committee, and I was approached as to had given any consideration to be on the board, and I was invited to go through the process. There's a questionnaire, and you submit all your information, and they take it to a committee that's convened for that purpose to evaluate candidates, and that board determined they want to endorse. And lo and behold, I was endorsed by the NRA's selection committee to be a candidate for the NRA Board of Directors. And I consider it a great opportunity, and I hope that people after they have heard my background, that they know that I'm in it to win it, that I'm a devout, true blue fan of gun rights. And, you know, the quickest way, I think, to know what people do in the future is to value done in the past. And I've been pushing gun rights for almost 20 years now, and I'm going to continue to do that if I'm trusted with the votes to be elected to the NRA Board of Directors.
And there's 5, was it 5 open seats that are no? What's the number?
25.
25. Wow. Okay. And
Is
do
it
we know? Go ahead.
25 seats or 25 people? Oh, you're right. It's 25 seats, right? It's the math always gets me. I'm
So
not the math
okay,
teacher.
so let me tell you how that works for folks, because it seems it's a big board. It really is a big board.
90
And
something, right?
so there's 76
76.
members.
76.
So every year, 1/3 of them rolls off, and that covers 75. And then the 76th member goes around, talks to everybody at the annual meeting, is elected at the annual meeting, and is elected for 1 year. And so with the premise that if he's an incumbent, she, that they'll stand a better chance of being able to run the following year. So that's it. So the board is really made up of 76 members. And so that's one of the battles that people have, is that, well, the board is huge. But when you really look at the makeup of the board, there is probably 1/3 of them that are the true committee member workhorses. There are some that are on the board because of what they know and who they know and their contacts. And there are some that are on there because they are money-making machines that can support the Second Amendment. And in a day, I mean, Tom Selleck was on the board. In a day, he can raise $5 million. You know, Rick nor I in our lifetime could not raise $5 million, you know? So there's kind of like 3 different paths that the board members kind of fulfill. Though you don't really say, hey, dude, I've nominated you because you're the cash cow that's going to bring money. But it really is that money is part of what makes it go round, because things like the Bruin decision needs to be funded. You know, it costs $1 million to get a court case to the Supreme Court level. So all of that is happening. And so this group has been nominated. And as Rick said, he made it through the nominating committee and the nominating process. There's 2 ways to get onto the ballot. One is to do it by petition. And in order to do it by petition, after the annual meeting and before like October, somewhere in there, you have to go and get a certain percentage of however many people voted last year. You need a certain percentage of that. And so it's like 1,000 signatures of life members and or 5-year plus members. But nobody tells you who they are or where they are. And the big shows are over. So SHOT Show isn't then. NRA isn't then, right? So you're in there trying to find these people that are kind of hidden in the grass, in the tall grass, if you will. So running by petition is really hard, because you don't know where you find those people. And people will sign a petition and then they're not valid signatures. And so you're counting that you've got those signatures and you don't. So a lot of people will both try to do by petition and submit their information to the nominating committee. And so that's, I have submitted my paperwork to the nominating committee a couple of years in a row, was not selected. This year I was selected, and I had mentally made a decision that I was going to go by petition next year if I hadn't been picked. Because I worked full time until April of this year, and then I retired from my day job as an aerospace engineer. And so it's really funny because both Rick and I are engineering. We've got that technical engineering, problem solving, analytical background, which I think when people ask me who did I endorse Rick. I endorse me and I endorse Rick. But because I think that that's where, when you look at where the NRA right now is, they're under attack. And they're under attack. New York, you know, Letitia James said that she was going to take the NRA down. She was going to tear it down as part of her campaign promise. So when you look, there are all of these things that are being said, and some are true and some are not true. And you know, there's a PR campaign that's happening that is trying to take the largest pro-gun organization out of the picture. And somebody's got to be there make tough decisions and to be involved and to catch it as it works its way through this. And that's the reason why I wanted to run.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the NRA was founded in New York State, my state, in 1871. I mean, it's been around that long. I think the only pro-gun organization that's older than the NRA, if I'm not mistaken, is New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, which is who brought the Bruin case to, the Supreme Court.
With NRA funding, because they couldn't have done it on their own, right?
So the second thing, and it took 7 years. A lot of people don't realize that either. It took 7 years. The wheels of justice moved ever so slowly, and it was the right timing because of the makeup of the Supreme Court now. And then you see these floodgates of lawsuits now. I mean, they're going to hear 5 cases. The district court's going to hear 5 cases next month.
Did you hear that since Bruin came out in June of 2022?
Yep.
And since then, the last number I heard was that it has been cited in 280 court cases since its decision. 280. The impact of it is huge.
That's unbelievable. That's more than one a day.
Well, you look at that. Then you said 7 years for Bruin. It took 13 years for Heller to go through the courts. And then it took 2 years for McDonald after the Heller decision. So there's some of this stuff takes a long time, a real long time.
Yeah.
And so we're fighting though. I spent last week, I don't even know what day it is, but I think it was last week, Monday and Tuesday, in Tallahassee, Florida, testifying for their it's not really constitutional carry because they don't have open carry to it, but it's permitless carry. And because of that, I sat next to Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, all of these folks, and I listened to what they said and what they believed. There was the Giffords campaign, the Every Time for Gun Safety, the Moms Demand. There was all those groups had sent paid people in to testify, and their facts aren't facts. Their facts are made up. And they all cited them. They all quoted them. They all cited them. That's the battle we're battling, because if they say that crap enough, that people believe it. If they hear it enough, people believe it. And so that's part of what are we doing and why are we doing it? The NRA survived for 150 years, and it's not going to go down on my watch.
Amen. Awesome. So that being said, how does right now currently, what are the many ways that people can vote for you guys? What's the quickest, easiest, fastest? What are all the ways? Because there's a few ways, correct?
There's one.
There's one way.
Okay.
And
I know the quickest is if you're an eligible member and that you received a ballot in your magazine. And from information that I got when I called the hotline number, is that if you don't receive the physical magazine, one physically mailed to you. And if there's a question as to whether you're voting, call the main NRA number and they'll direct you to the proper phone number, proper extension, and you'll get an answer as to whether you're due.
So the envelope for your ballot has your name on it, has your member ID number. So when in you got a February magazine that said you're a voting member, and this magazine contains your ballot, and it was the centerfold of the magazine. And as Rick said, that if you do not get the magazine, you get it electronically, then they'll have mailed you one. And that's the only way. You have to be a life member or a 5-year continuous member for the 5 previous years to be a voting member of the NRA. And you have to be a full dues paying member. So if you have joined in that auxiliary membership, the $10 a year one, you do not get to be a voting member.
Gotcha.
So look for your magazine. Look for your February magazine. And when does that have to be in by? When does that have to be mailed or postmarked by?
It has to arrive in Virginia by I think it goes to Virginia. I don't know. I stuck it in its envelope. By midnight on March 26th.
All right, March 26th. Okay.
Arrive,
right, so
not postmarked.
it's got to be there.
They're not the Board of Election.
Well,
No
you
ex-
know,
you-
and if
you
it's
have to-
Arizona, they take 2-3 weeks after
Right,
that.
yeah.
Right. No,
They almost figured out who won the Super Bowl.
right. Just saying.
Cool. Good info.
Very, very cool. So, Rick, talk to us some more. Amanda's great at talking. I said she's great at talking.
Well, I mean, one thing that we, and she's an excellent communicator. I'll definitely say that. One thing that we have experienced here in Michigan is that we are in the pro-gun community are fighting off some reckoning that the anti-gun people are trying to shove down our throats. Based on the last election, we have one party, the anti-gun, anti-fun, anti-rights party, controls every branch of state government. They have the governor's office, they have the Senate, they have the representatives, and they, of course, if it goes that far, they have the majority on the Supreme Court. So things are, are looking anti-gunish right now. And I've been invited. I'm sure a lot of other people have been invited to go to Lansing, which is our city, our state capital, and to be among to offer public comments in terms of gun rights. And there's going to be 3 different sessions. There's each law that they're trying to enact. One for red flag laws that they really want to do. And of course, there's the Safe Storage Act. Of course, there's the universal background. Flag laws, we're familiar, or I at least hope that we're familiar with this monstrosity. But essentially, to eliminate your due process, it allows the nation to essentially trigger a pre-dawn raid on your residence, and if they don't kill you, they take your guns. And presumably you were a danger, but they do nothing to get you help. And then in the aftermath, I call it a lack of due process, because you've been convicted and punished, and now you have to prove that you're innocent and that you weren't a threat to society. But the bigger problem, I look at it conceptually, is that if you were so dangerous, how come this law that they're proposing doesn't physically take you somewhere to get you some imminent, immediate treatment? But that just tells us that it's not about the guns. And of course,
exactly.
To mandatory safe storage, this is, and I'm sure it happens to some degree in a lot of major metropolitan country. In Detroit, most times, you'll hear about some person who's statutorily eligible to have a gun, or they have some disqualifying convictions in their record where they can't legally own a gun, but this irresponsible lawbreaker, and they're not responsible, someone is hurt, injured, or killed. So they're proposing this law where, of course, in the aftermath of it, someone is hurt, then they want to go back and then punish you after the fact, but they're not proposing anyone safer. Government, they feel, is the answer. And of course, universal registration, that's here in Michigan. Unfortunately, handguns are required to be registered. And of course, they want us to register shotguns and rifles. And if it's one margin, more people are killed with knives than a long gun. And of course, there's quite a few other things like rock objects and a wide assortment of other objects before it becomes a statistical problem. But you know what? It's not about logical or whether it makes sense, or if you look at where the biggest issues are in our community, if it's related to guns and gun ownership, they want to make it difficult for you to exercise your right, and they want to essentially control them so much so discourage you from even owning one.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
we see
totally.
that heavily.
We do. I actually did an interview this past week with someone in Pennsylvania, and she's from Brazil, and she said that in Brazil they registered everyone that had a firearm. They registered all the guns. They wanted to know who had the guns, and then a few years later they came and they knocked on the doors and they took all the guns, and then they said things were good for a couple years, and then after 2 years or so they got a new president, and after that new president took office, all hell broke loose, and things turned really bad. And there's only, I don't know, 1% of the people that can own firearms, but I think she said they're not. They're like number 5 for gun deaths, but number 1 in homicide throughout the world in Brazil. And it's because
Crazy.
they've confiscated the firearms. And I wanted to point out to her that legislation leads to registration, registration leads to confiscation, and confiscation leads to extermination. And we've seen this before in history, and this is exactly what these anti-gun wacko politicians want to do here in the United States.
And it's evident they want to do that, and in some cases it's always let's give them a little bit. But when you give them a little bit, they take a mile, and then we get set back even further, and it's harder and harder to come back from. So at some point you can't come back. You're beyond that point where there's no way you can get those back.
Right. It's once you start loosening the belt, it's hard to bring it in.
Feeling that this season.
Oh man. So Amanda, you've had a lot of experience as an engineer, and obviously, we know you for everything you've done in the Second Amendment, but you've been an engineer, and you've done a lot of stuff to, what is it? I think you say you used to keep airplanes in the air. I think that's what it was, right?
When they say, do you have an elevator speech of what you do? I was like, yeah, I keep airplanes in the sky.
Yes.
It's
cool.
It's critical. Actually, I'm an engineer by trade, and so I've done anything from operations management, plant management, machinery design. I've got a patent in hydrogen generation, heat transfer stuff, but so a little bit of kind of all that stuff. But really what I think that it's done for me is toward the end of my career, I did a lot of companies in distress, where you'd come in and you're working with a company that's got trouble, and you're trying to sort through what's good, what's bad, what you keep, what's the baby, what's the bathwater, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that those skills are going to be necessary with the NRA and the things that we're facing, because 1, you've got to make some hard decisions, and 2, you've got to take some of the grief that comes with it. When you're in a leadership role, people throw a lot of darts at those things. So all of that happens. But no matter what, one of the things that has to happen with the NRA is that you've got to maintain some kind of confidence to the employees of the NRA that it's going to continue to exist, and that the things that they know are going to be solid and dependable. Because it doesn't matter what organization you've got, these people are employees so that they don't go to work because they love going to work. They go to work so that they can feed their families, live indoor, buy a car, pay for their house, whatever those things are. And so when you get to a company that's in turmoil, the good employees will look at it and say, I can't take a chance. I'm not going to risk my kid's college fund. I'm not going to risk my family's future on a company that I may not have a job next week. And so you lose the really good people. And then you're left with those who are not motivated or aren't going to go look, so what happens is the cream of the crop just skins out if you're not careful in the management of change. And so change management is an art unto itself, and that's going to be something that really is going to be board dependent, because I really think that New York is going to they're going to make some mandates, they're going to make some statements, they're going to make something happen, and then there's some hard decisions that are going to have to be made. And so that's where I think that it's kind of the time this is now a good time for my life's work to have culminated with my engineering stuff, my problem solving stuff, and my advocacy all together for this run.
Gotcha. All right, I want to get a couple questions from some of the folks here. Woods has some questions. I think we already kind of got this from Rick, but who was the first 2A activist who inspired each of you?
Rick, you want to take it first?
Activist?
Yeah,
that inspired me?
Yes.
I would say it was Mr. Kid Black Man with a Gun Blanchard. I used to, I used to think about at Russian, or how would I find my to activism. I knew I wanted to protect the Second Amendment. I knew I wanted to get it's sort of filling out a process going to manifest itself in your life, right? And so I was doing some searches trying to figure out who is out there like me mulling over how they're going to make their contribution that makes sense with what they've been doing. So I literally typed in Black Man with a Gun, and I got Ken Blanchard's website, man. I devoured just about could on his website. And then I went to my PC, because lo and behold, on his website, he was saying he was going to be there, and that he basically said that a lot of things that said, hey, it's going to be a bunch of people in the gun. We're going to be networking. We're going to talk a lot about politics and things that we're doing in our local areas. We're working together, and I got to meet a ton of people, and I eventually ran into Ken, introduced myself, and then after I ran out of words, I just merely followed him around the conference all weekend like a lost puppy, right? Just looking for someone to give him a North Star to follow. And then eventually, I guess, he figured out I wasn't a weirdo and became my friend. So I've known him for a number of years now, and he's been put together an endorsement and video for me. So it's been pretty cool.
That's cool. Amanda, how about you? Who was your first one? Who was your first Second Amendment advocate that motivated you?
That's kind of a hard question, because for a long time, I started answering questions. I got my firearms instructors, and I just started answering questions for people. And then Ohio was passing their concealed carry. And so we started to, I showed the sheriff where all the sections of the law was. It was 168 pages, and I'd read it and made notes, and, and had it like a cheat sheet. And so I knew where all the stuff was. And so it took me a long time it really was a whole thing of somebody ought to do something, and hey, I'm somebody. And then one day I looked around, and I went to Gun Rights Policy Conference, and I found it, and I didn't even know it existed. And then I realized that there was a lot of people like me. And then I discovered, Alan Gottlieb. And so my hero is Mr. Whipple. just saying. Oops, don't tell him.
Too late. Cat's out of the bag.
Too late. We are sending a link to this to Alan tonight.
Notice. Hey, I did not say that. Amanda said that.
Amanda said this right. So when Amanda doesn't get invited to speak at GRPC, it's because of our show.
There you go. So what year did we go? What year was Tampa GRPC? 2017?
That was 2016.
2016. Okay, so I had been doing a radio show for 6 years talking about guns before I discovered Gun Rights Policy Conference. I'd been going to the NRA stuff for forever, since the 80s. But I didn't know that that second level, the podcasting and the communication stuff, I didn't know it existed, and so when I found it, well, you can tell them the story of how you and I met the second time, Charlie.
I want to say first, I had to read this carefully because it says, I guess she's squeezing the Charmin. I thought it said the chairman for a second there.
Oh, put your glasses on. Put your
I
glasses
know, right? I do need the cheaters. Yeah, so I met Amanda at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in 2016, and she and another gal and I went out for lunch during the lunchtime awards because we didn't know there were lunchtime awards. We went to a restaurant. It was a Chinese place called the Sa-Ri-One.
Yeah.
And we went and had lunch, and that was it, man. We've almost inseparable since then, which is wonderful. It's really
For
really
you.
something else.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he
right.
didn't offer up the other part, which was
The other part where I was on your radio show a year and a half before, and you did, and you
Oh,
said
I
you wanted to
remember
have me
that.
back, but you never
I
had me
remember that.
back.
I
Yeah,
didn't
okay.
remember.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So we
okay.
got another question on here. Let me get my mouse cursor over here. There we go. So, what is your first goal if elected? We'll start with you, Rick.
For be elected, well, I would say, look, first goal is actually finding out how exactly everything works and
makes
everything
sense.
that we're doing, and exactly how I can make a contribution. You know, I went to the last meeting. It was there was a board meeting, but of course I'm not on the board, but I'm on a committee. So we had a committee meeting. And then and there's a bunch of other committees that are there. And while you're there, it's always good to learn more about the organization by being in on a bunch of meetings. So, of course, there was a board. I guess it wasn't billed as a board meeting. It was billed a meeting to address something, and someone was going to speak to it. But then shortly after everyone took up residence in the room, okay, we got something to talk about, and we're going into closed session. And for those of you who don't know what closed session means, if I remember, then there was one other person I was with, and they were waiting for us to leave, but they didn't say, "Hey, you two." And so it wasn't until it dawned on them that they were like telling us discreetly to scram and beat it and get out. And so then we left, and then they went to talk about what they needed to discuss. And I'm sure loved it, but you know, it's great to go to the meetings, but when they go executive session and you're not executive, then you have to get up. You got to leave.
For sure. Amanda?
So for me, one of the things that I understand is that once you're on the board, then you get to go to this orientation, and then they say, which committees would you like to be on? And you may or may not get them. And so I've been spending a lot of time kind of thinking about which committees would I like to be on, and where is a good start. And so the ones that I would very much like to be on, at least right now, is because I think I've got some input as I'm learning in the publications, so the magazines, the podcasts, the TV shows, all of that kind of stuff, and how the NRA gets the word out and how they have a public face.
Yeah.
And that would be one committee. And the other one is, frankly, the darn membership, because every time you talk to anybody, they're like, the NRA never tells me when my membership is due. They call me all the time. And in some cases, I've run into people who have 2 or 3 memberships going simultaneously because it didn't get tacked on. It's a hot mess. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's probably ways that I mean, even though the NRA hounds you, I don't believe it's all the NRA. I think it's a fundraising company. And I think that there's stuff that could be done better so that it doesn't chase away members because they're so tired of being dunned and hounded.
Right, for sure. Well, that's good. Good game plan, and it's tough because you guys, once you get in there, I mean, you like Rick said, you got to kind of find out the way things are and work your way around. You can't just come in. You're not a newly elected executive vice president coming in and like a bull in a china shop. You're one of the new kids on the block, just moving up to that
We're
uncomfortable
freshmen.
situation.
Do we get to
Exactly.
play, and do we not get to, get that little noogie thing on our head and throw down the stairs,
Yeah, you're the one that gets the couch in the corner or something. So
Right. I don't want the swirly in the bathroom. I don't.
right, here's another one for you. Did y'all grow up around guns, or did it come later like Charlie? Rick, take it away.
You know what? I did grow guns, but you know what? I didn't knowingly grow up around guns, right? And you're like, well, gee, how do you explain that? Well, my mother, unbeknownst to me, growing up as a kid, maturing and aging, there was guns in the house, but I didn't know about it. But she knew about it. But
You're right.
I didn't see this gun until I bought my first gun, of course, after I got robbed. But I've made up a lot of ground after those two bad guys shoved one in my driveway. But
for sure,
think of my arc, man. Crime victim to potentially being on the board of the NRA. I mean, I made up a lot of ground in a relatively short period of time.
Nice.
Absolutely. So David here kind of points out what Amanda was saying. He says he joined for 3 years. The next year he got a notice that his membership was expiring. So he renewed for another 4 years, only to find out he now had 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Right.
this Facebook user says they grew up around guns. He's been around guns his whole life. What about the topic, education, training? Nope, I'm all good. Yeah, there's a lot of people are that way as well, where they've grown up shooting and don't want to do any don't want to get more education, which is okay
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Somebody had a question I want to go back to.
Let me finish.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Amanda's got to finish.
Ah!
Get
So,
it, Amanda.
So my grandfather was a trap shooter, and he shot trap on the circuit, so from Ohio to Florida and back. And so some of my earliest memories were we'd go over there and I would get to reload shotgun shells, and we would fight to see who got to sit on the bench and pull the lever. And this was early enough that it was before plastic wads were actually commercially available. And if you bought shells, you could get plastic wads in the shells. So my grandfather would give each one of the kids a pillowcase, and we'd go to the range and pick up wads and then go home and wash them in the wash machine and then sort them on the table in the basement. And so there was that. My mother taught hunter safety, and my father was a collector. And by the time when he passed away, he had the most complete collection of Ruger 357s in the world. 37 of exactly the same gun with every different manufacturing variation. So from 1955 to 1973, all the bridge tops and flat tops, the 3-screwed Rugers, the first center fires that Ruger had, that was what he had. And so I definitely grew up around guns. And then I married a guy who was not a gun guy. And so I kind of, I had a gun, but I kind of took a hiatus, and guns really weren't big and heavy in my world. And then I had a shift in career at one point and went back and got my firearms instructor's license, and I've been a perpetual student ever since. I try to go to 1 or 2 different training schools every year somewhere, because every instructor is going to teach me something slightly different.
Well, speaking of that, I'll be up in Michigan in March teaching a UTM instructor course. Rick, if you're interested in hanging out, stopping by.
You know what? I wish that you were up in Michigan like the weekend, the last Saturday, Sunday of July. I vaguely remember having a conversation with you last.
Yep. Hey, it's on the calendar for this year. So we have two more questions, and I'd like to try to get them both in before the end of the show. So if you guys could hit it quick with your response. This one I think is a good one. What's the difference between a 2A advocate and a 2A activist? He puts you guys in the latter. What's your take on that? Rick? Between
an advocate and an activist. I'm not really a Second Amendment advocate. You know what? I'll take a stab at it. Currently, I would say advocate. I do that role in the sense that things that are currently accepted and expected in training as a firearms instructor and as a 2A speaker and make media appearances talking about why we should continue to have and bear. Was a time years ago here where the thing called open carry, but didn't generally know about it. And it was highly discouraged by urban police agencies like our local police department here in Detroit. And I was part of a group, and I'm actually still affiliated with them, but there's a gun rights group that promotes open carry. And we used to do a lot of open carry events, and we would do, I know I did my share of sponsoring gun buybacks, right? We try to buy the guns from the people as they were trying to turn them in, and we'd offer them more. Like maybe they were offering like five loaves of bread or something for like a working gun, and you know, we'd show up and say, hey, here's cash, you know, what would you rather have? And you know, they didn't really like it, but that was legal, but it was sort of pushing the envelope locally in the Metro Detroit area. And, you know, obviously the police didn't really like it. And of course, that put me in the role, I believe, if I understand the question, more an activist than an advocate.
Okay, fair enough. Amanda?
So I think an advocate is somebody who says, I've got guns, I believe in guns, I'm training others and, you know, sharing that with my family and those kind of things. A 2A activist is somebody, as Rick said, is out doing public speaking and testimonies and encouraging others and encouraging that growth in that area and hones that skill so that they can educate and communicate and do that. So in the last couple of weeks and next week, I'm actually testifying in Ohio for their second SAPA, so Second Amendment preservation. So to keep the let's say if the ATF comes to Ohio, they got to bring their own. They've got to bring their own folks. They can't borrow ours. You know, that kind of a thing. So that's the activist, is getting activity, getting involved and communicating that way.
Good. I like that. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's what more of us need to do, right? I mean, in everything. I mean, I try to do the hunter ed stuff. I was interested to hear that your mother was a hunter education instructor, Amanda. That's cool. That was kind of my way to give back in that aspect, but actually getting out there, doing speeches and trying to get other people to vote, and then taking that next level, that next step, you know, going and meeting with politicians, pushing them to know the law and know about guns so that they don't make stupid, erroneous laws is definitely a very important thing. And that next level that all of us in the gun industry definitely need to do to keep our rights. So we did have a, go ahead.
You know, as I'm sitting here listening to the conversation, I'm trying to figure out if the big women shoot that I do every year, would that be more of an advocate or an activist?
So good. You know what? Good question. I pulled up the definitions, and the definition of an advocate is a person who publicly supports and recommends a particular case, a clause, or policy. And an activist is a person who campaigns to bring about political or social change. So I would say the
closely intertwined in some sense.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the answer to that is, Rick, you're the activist and you're trying to bring up 2,000 advocates. And so the advocates are your students, and you are, and you're the activist.
I like that.
All right. Well, I don't know if this is a question you wanted to pull up, Matt, but it's the one I wanted to. What piece of information would you give to an aspiring 2A activist?
Rick, take it away.
Well, I'll jump on that one first. I would think that just looking from my own personal experiences that I alluded to earlier, find your path. You know, I mean, we all can't do the same thing, and probably some of us can do some things that are similarly, or maybe draw upon and pull in terms of what other people are doing. But I know when I wanted to be more active, I had to really find my voice and find, you know, where I fit into this. You know, we're all individuals and we're going to have different backgrounds and different activities and different strengths. It's just a matter of figuring out where you fit in and where you can make the biggest difference. And I'll tell you, by going to some of the pro gun events that we have every year, like GRPC or NRA annual meeting, I think one of the greater things out of it is that you meet other misfits like you, and you see what they're doing, and they can help you figure out how you can best use your voice and your skill set to advance the overall cause of responsible firearm ownership.
Love it.
Cool. Amanda, how about you?
Well, I would say that, as Rick said, go to Gun Rights Policy Conference, go to NRA, go to those things, look for the people that you admire, and then ask their opinion and listen to it. When you ask for their opinion, they are telling you how you can be better. They're going to give you a hand up, not a hand out. And so their goal is to have more people come up behind them, to follow them, to continue their life's work. And as each one of us gets a little older, you know, we want the next generation to come behind us and take this and take it even further, you know, so that the, you know, the Wright brothers flew an airplane and then the next guys took it as a rocket to the moon. You know, that everybody builds on the last guy, and these people will all tell you and show you and help. But I'd say listen, and when you ask for advice, put your ego on the shelf and analyze the advice that's given to you, because it's given to you with the best of intentions.
I think that's lost a lot of these days. I think a lot of people are, you know, worried about getting bad advice, or they get advice and they think it's, you know, it's personal. I think sometimes you just got to step back and self-reflect. So that's awesome advice, Amanda. And I got to say that anybody out there watching or listening to this definitely needs to make sure you get your vote in for both Rick and Amanda with the NRA. Anybody that can vote, we should say. So don't forget to get that in, and make sure that you get these guys on the board, because we're going to need them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So real quick here, Matt is going to pull up some numbers, and we're going to have each of you pick a number to find out who is our winners.
So I get a number and Amanda gets a number?
Yes. Matt's going to give us
like
a
between
window.
what and what? I mean, give me some parameters.
Matt's pulling that up now, man.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Because if it's truly random and you leave it all up to me, it's going to have an exponent in it.
Right. It's going to be a point something with a fraction, which I don't even know if you can do because I'm not a math teacher. Someone asked real quick as we're going to vamp here. Mallet is mailed or emailed, and Amanda said if you get the magazine, it gets mailed to you.
In the February edition.
In the February edition, yes. And if you get the electronic magazine, then they mail the ballot to you. So the only way they do it is mail it, whether it's in the magazine or the ballot by itself.
So and as long as you've been a life member or a member for 5 contiguous years, and if you didn't see it already, contact the office. And Rick, how did they? Which number are they contacting? Do you remember? Contact the office and ask.
Oh, let me tell you, Google is your friend.
All right. Well, as Matt's trying to pull the numbers up, I'm
just making sure we didn't get any cheaters getting in there twice. I got somebody that did.
Oh, that person is banned from the show. They're done. They're out.
No more.
Well, you know, we did this because we love you guys. We want to support you guys. We want you guys to get elected, because we do think the NRA is worth keeping around. it needs good people like you inside of the NRA to make these things happen. G Webs asked what the code was. The code is the code for tonight was NRA. I don't know if it's too late, but yeah, G Webs already won something. Come on, man. We're glad you're here, dude.
All right. So Rick, give me a number between 1 and 17. And which
13.
item? Next level. 13, you said? 13 is.
I said
For which item
the
first
number
before
is
you say
7.
who
The item 2.
Yeah, you pick the item. Which one do you want to give this person?
The big ticket item, the one that was worth more money. What was that?
The
CERT pistol.
The CERT green laser pistol goes to
Okay,
EJ.
they want a CERT pistol.
Boger, Bognear, EJ.
All right, EJ, congratulations.
EJ got the CERT. Let me make a note so I don't forget, because old and all that stuff. So CERT. All right, and Amanda, same thing. 1 to 17. You can't pick 13.
Okay, let's just back down by
Or
time. Let's go
17.
to number 3.
Number 3.
Number three.
Uno, dos, tres. Daniel Velt, VELDT. Daniel, you won the Mantis X10 valued at $250. Once again,
All
thanks
right.
to both Next Level Training and Mantis for all the great giveaway items. They've been sponsors of everything I've been doing and jumped on to help out here. Entered twice. Oh, yeah. So he is the one that entered twice. I deleted both of them. I'm kidding.
Oh, you deleted the winning one.
Cool. All right.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for being on. Thank you guys for taking the time. And I'm looking forward to being with you guys in Indiana when you guys get elected to the board and celebrating. Woo-hoo.
And I'll be there. I'll be there the whole time.
You know what? We'll be there, and you know what? I have a feeling that we're both going to win. But here's my other prediction. Last time Amanda and I was on the show, she said she doesn't care how many votes she gets, just as long as we both get elected, and that she gets more votes than me. Well, I hope we both get elected, but I want us to have the same number of votes.
You guys got to have something like if she gets more votes than you, then she's got to buy you a drink, or you get more than her, you got to buy something. You guys got to come up with something.
Have a friendly wager of some sort, right?
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
Yeah, and it does not involve tattoos. We'll just say.
I don't have any. Surprisingly, I don't have a single tattoo. My wife's got a messed up tattoo.
I've made it to this old age without a single tattoo.
Same here.
I think they're overrated.
Maybe that's what we do. Maybe you guys get elected, we all go get NRA tattoos.
Maybe not.
Hey, you brought it up, Amanda. You brought it up.
Maybe I'll write NRA on my tennis shoes, but yeah.
Guys, you're awesome. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you guys and sharing knowledge and stuff. So, yeah, good luck. God bless. Godspeed.
Matt, I will see Matt. I will see you in July, sir.
That is the goal, my friend. July.
No. We don't goals. We do actual plans, right?
No
So
try do, right?
So I got it. Late in July.
There is no try, right? Yeah.
I think we lost Charlie this time. It's like Charlie might have
and
left
that's a really good way his face.
Wait. He has a really great frozen face. He's just pulling our legs.
No, he's frozen.
Did you see what we did to Paul?
No,
Lathrop
I'm telling you,
time?
he's really good at this.
When you log out,
really
if you
good
make
at
a
this.
face when you log out, it just gets perfect.
He just
Who has
texted
the
me.
show?
He texted me.
Who has the show when it's like a planned thing for everyone to do the frozen face? Who does that?
We did it for Paul Lathrop. We did that.
Oh, okay. That's
everybody
what Charlie's doing.
You got it. So.
And then he
okay.
just
All right, guys.
bailed on us.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right, it's been great talking to you all.
Have a great night. Stay safe.
Yes.